What's up, guys? It is Calkin. We're Talking Knowledge podcast
Andrew.
with Calkin and Drew. Thank you so much for joining me today. We have a really good one for you. I do have to, however, fix the music for you guys. So if you can give me 1 second. Um, Drew, what are we going to be talking about today?
I think we decided on flood myths, actually.
Flood myths.
Flood myths, yeah.
So there's about 200 known recorded flood stories. You know, stories like the Epic of Gilgamesh, stories like Noah's Ark, stories like the Hindus got Manu Matsaya.
Matsya.
Right. The Chinese have Gunyo, which the events are from 2300 to 2200 BCE. Was the earliest written records, the original traditions, or sorry,
The Aboriginals,
Aboriginal
the indigenous people of Australia. Flood stories range from 7,000 to 13,000 years ago. So that's very ancient.
right. It is. Yeah, and actually something that, when me and Drew had this conversation, this was actually before we decided to get into podcasting. We had the discussion about the Epic of Gilgamesh and Noah's Ark. I could have sworn that Noah's Ark was dated before, came first. And no, I guess that I was wrong. Gilgamesh dates back, even further.
And you very adamant.
Oh, was I?
Adamant
Was
in,
I?
in your conviction.
I was. I definitely was. So, well, with that going to say, thank you to the two people who are here joining us. We were explaining what we're going to be talking about, which is, there's 200 known record. There's 200 stories of floods on record, right? Different stories from Hindu got one, Gilgamesh, Noah's Ark, etc. There's similarities with all of them. The gods became displeased with humanity, right? That's a similarity there. A righteous person was called out, as a vessel. That was also, and then preserving life and specifically animal as well. It wasn't just people, So we're going to be getting into all that today. We're going to branch out a little bit as we always do. But thank you so much for joining me, guys. We really do appreciate you. And now to get the music going in the background for you guys. Do you want to lead him with something here? The Gilgamesh. He is very knowledgeable in Gilgamesh. So you want to spit some knowledge about the Gilgamesh?
Yeah. So are we gonna keep it just on the flood aspect of it, or
Anything and everything. I mainly want to focus. What I'm looking for is the similarities that Noah's Ark has, as well as the Gilgamesh, as well as, and I'm not talking about, we're not branching off thinking about, alien civilization.
No.
Okay, we're gonna keep this very just on Earth for now, and I'm trying to find the similarities of all of them. We just go on and tell them what the story of Gilgamesh is.
Yeah. Well, before I get into that, I do want to touch on what you said about ancient aliens and all that stuff.
Oh, right.
Right. So a lot of people, when they first talk about these stories, they go the ancient alien technology,
Right.
ancient.
Describe it, so we describe it as just
Right. Well,
that.
there's that too. But
I don't vape. I do smoke, and you're right, but I'm not smoking cigarettes anymore. I got 6 months off of not smoking cigarettes anymore. I'm gonna quit the pot, but that's neither here nor there. We're talking about the story of Gilgamesh. But thank you. We do appreciate your comment. How are you doing? And thank you so much for being here.
yeah, I appreciate the comments, but there's your life and there's my life. But
Right, and let's keep it on the. Let's keep it. Do you know about the story of Gilgamesh? Hey, how's it going, Lance? How's it going? We appreciate it. This is Talking Knowledge podcast. So back to the story of Gilgamesh. Go ahead.
right. So yada yada yada. We'll circle back to that. But in the Epic of Gilgamesh, there's a king, right, who is 2/3 God, right, and he goes on this quest for immortality. So he seeks out this immortal man, right, and he wants to know the secret to immortality, right?
So start from the beginning. I'm sorry. Gilgamesh is what? Because we got 5 people just
right.
came.
So he's a king, right? He's king of the city-state of Uruk, and he is 2/3 God.
Okay.
And he goes on this quest for immortality. He wants to live forever, right? And so he seeks out this immortal man, right, who lives on the edge of the world, right, edge of the mortal world, to ask him the secret of eternal life, right? So he goes through all these various trials, travels vast distances, goes.
Thank you for your subscribe.
Thank you for the subscription. He goes through all this stuff, right, and he finally meets this immortal man whose name is Utnapishtim. And at first, he tells this immortal man everything that he's been through, right? We're not going to go through the whole entire story of Gilgamesh, but we're just going to talk about the flood part, right? And so he tells Gilgamesh that the gods, right, particularly Enlil, Anu, the Sumerian pantheon of gods, were displeased with humanity, right? Humanity has become wicked and sinful. And so they sought that total destruction of humanity was befitting. However, one god, whose name was Ea, also known as Enki, saw favor in this man, Utnapishtim, right? And he warned him of the incoming flood and instructed him to make this vessel, make this boat, and take...
Just like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Just like Noah's Ark. So that's another similarity. So far we have 3. Sorry, I'm looking window for you.
Right. And take on the kinds of animals and wait out the flood, right? And then after surviving this flood, right, the gods granted him immortality, right? Which isn't necessarily the case necessarily with Noah, but to wrap up.
He didn't grant him immortality, but he granted him. He said he did make a promise, and it wasn't immortality, but it was the promise of you'll have descendants as far as the stars.
Well, that was Abraham.
But all of them had that too.
Well,
they all.
Well, that specific promise.
Right.
That specific promise.
That wasn't. But
was for Abraham.
But for Noah was the fact that he would be the new. That he would be the new.
The new humanity.
Right. That was his promise. He was also promised something if he was to obey these things. I'll watch you guys some reels. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. I got some good reels. They're a little long, so stick with them. We're gonna be making more, man. Our live sessions is dope too. Stick along, guys. Ask some questions, man. We want to hear about it, man. We're gonna be getting into the Hindu version, the Chinese version as well, and we want some questions from you guys. So feel free to ask.
So with Utnapishtim, right? He's on this boat, survives the flood, releases a raven, a dove, just like Noah does.
Just like Noah. And mind you, I want to remind the sick people who are here that this story dates back the tablets that they found of the story, and I want to tell people it's a tablets that they found. It's not a book. It's tablets. It dates further than the tablets found for the Gospels and etc. That's scrolls. Not the scrolls, and that's not to diminish. What comes from Jesus, etc. I'm a true believer in Jesus myself. I'm just saying, that it could probably be a mixture. It could be a mixture of both, There's a truth. I want to know what that is, That's all. And we're asking the questions that need to be asked. Keep going.
And so after Utnapishtim gets off, right? Humanity's restarted. It slightly differs, like I said earlier, that he's granted, actually him and his wife were granted immortality. And Utnapishtim has a task for Gilgamesh, right? And he says, if you want to conquer death, you must conquer sleep. And so he tells him, if you can stay awake for 6 days and 7 nights, we'll take it from there.
So he said, conquer sleep and you'll conquer death.
Right. Well, if you want to conquer death, you must conquer sleep. But yes.
Right.
Right. And what's interesting, right? As soon as Gilgamesh is given this task, he immediately falls asleep. He immediately falls asleep.
Not against his own volition. I'm guessing he was hypnotized of some sort.
Not hypnotized, but the whole journey it took for him to get to meet Unapishtim, he was already exhausted. Right.
He traveled long distances.
Right.
He was on the other side of the goddamn
Right.
earth.
He had to fight
Yes.
lions in the wild. He had to negotiate with scorpion beings. He had to go through this mountain passage in total darkness for an extended period of this extended amount of distance. And then he reaches this garden, right? And he meets this tavern keeper, and then he meets this ferryman. And he had to chop down 120 cedar trees to make punting poles to cross the waters in order to get them. So he had all this stuff to do. And when Gilgamesh awakes, he says, "I've only closed my eyes for a moment. I didn't sleep. He sleeps for the whole 6 days and 7 nights."
Wow.
And so Unapishtim's wife bakes a loaf of bread for every day that he's asleep, to show that Gilgamesh was actually asleep for that time. So the loaves were started to mold, right? Started to decay,
Right.
And
Something that showed time other than somebody, right.
Right. And at that point, Unapishtim, he's about to send Gilgamesh on his way. Like, that's it.
I wonder what the correlation between, conquering death, sleep with the death. Does it, when you read the story of Gilgamesh, did it specify why was it that it was sleep?
Well, based on what I know about the connection between sleep and death, right? Or even the Nas lyric, right? Sleep is the cousin of death.
Yes, I love how you said that. That's actually a really good one. Yeah, yeah. And that's kind of why when you said it, that's what made me want to write it down too.
Yeah, sleep is the it's called the little death, right? It's the closest thing to experiencing unconsciousness to an
that
extent
realm
without actually dying.
Right, and I don't want to reel off to this, but this is look at the spider web right there. You see it? It's crazy. I don't want to veer too much into this, right?
Veer away.
But I do know this, right? Wait, what were we saying? I kind of just lost my train of thought. Fuck.
Sleep, death.
Oh, when we fall asleep, we have chemical in our brain that releases called, what is it, DMT?
DMT, dimethyltryptamine?
Yes, that releases when we sleep, when we dream. That's the same chemical that releases when we die.
And near death experience.
Right. That explains why we see things and whatever. Who's to say that when the chemical reaction stops in our brain, it stops? Maybe we get stuck in, people get stuck in trips.
Yeah.
Maybe we get stuck in that realm. That is the next realm. I think that's totally another subject.
That's gonna be another.
Oh, absolutely. So if you guys want to get into sleeping, that's definitely good. Maybe if we have time tonight, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But
and then naturally the topic of psychedelics and
yes,
DMT entities, mapping the DMT realm.
right. So you guys are seeing live, kind of just our brains brainstorming and firing. But go ahead, back to the Epic of Gilgamesh. So he was a king. We were talking about, okay, so he was a king of Uruk.
Yeah.
Uruk.
Uruk.
He was two-thirds gods, right? He was on a quest wanting to live forever.
Right.
So he seeked the mortal man on the other side of the world, basically.
Yeah.
He goes through a lot. You can't imagine the sunsets and everything he's seen.
Right. There's a lot of I'm skipping over.
Right, I can't
that
imagine.
That could be for another
one,
session.
right? He found the guy. The guy told him that he was the guy was displeased. He warned him about the flood, build, etc., etc.
Right.
Then he fell asleep. This is because he questioned him about, okay, so what do I have to do to live forever? He said, you gotta go sleep.
Well,
fell asleep.
he said, you in order to conquer death, you must conquer sleep.
Right.
Right. And he immediately fell asleep. So he could not even. So if you can't conquer sleep, you can't even stay awake. How are you gonna?
You know what's so funny that you say that? Because when you say it, right, you know what comes to mind? Because I read the Bible, right, which is right here, always, but I'm fascinated by all these stories. But I also like watch stuff, and there's an episode on The Chosen where he goes. Simon is supposed to be watching the back of Jesus while he's praying, and they both fell asleep. It was him and another apostle. Jesus comes back tight, like, dude, I told you to just stay awake. Why couldn't you stay awake? And then he says, stay awake, and he goes back and comes back. He's sleeping again. He's like, are you serious? I just told you, stay awake. At this time, you sleeping? Like, what the? And that's what Jesus taught. You can't even stay awake. Yeah. There's a little of that in there, too.
So we'll overlap with that as well.
There's an overlap there, right?
Because that understanding, that concept of sleep and death was very actually well known throughout the ancient world and other, ancient mystery schools, other spiritual traditions.
Right. So keep going. After he had awoken, so he obviously didn't achieve immortality.
No.
I mean, what he did was
not physical immortality.
Exactly. I was just gonna say that there's different things of immortality. Right. If someone is speaking your name, like Tupac will live forever.
Yeah.
He's immortal in the rap game. People who are immortal in certain sports, Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, these people are engraved in the sport. They will live forever. Their name, their essence, their memories.
Or people like George Washington, Abraham
Exactly.
Lincoln,
Absolutely.
Albert Einstein.
Yes. Yes. Oh,
Martin Luther King.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
And so, right. So there's Unapishtim. He's about to send Gilgamesh on his way without nothing, right? And Unapishtim's wife is like, hey, he came all this way. Give him something, right? And Unapishtim tells him that there's this plant of rejuvenation, right? It won't make him immortal, but it will prolong his life. And he gives him the instructions how to get it.
This is immortal life.
No, this is the plant of rejuvenation, right? So Unapishtim is about to send him on his way without anything. And his wife.
And Unapishtim is the immortal man.
Right.
Okay, about to send him on his way with nothing, but he's gonna send him.
But his wife intervenes and says, "Hey, this man came all this way.
Right.
And you gotta leave for something, right?" And so, Unapishtim tells Gilgamesh of this plant of rejuvenation. Now, this plant will not grant immortality, but it will make him younger, prolong his life. All right. So the closest thing to
Right.
Right.
It's living longer.
Right.
Which I totally believe that there is a plant out there. I mean, there's gotta be. There's gotta be. Right? I mean, if you think about it, every plant out there has what it needs to die and defend itself. Right? I feel like that could be branched out, but that's neither here nor there. Thank you so much to the 4 people who are here, man. Like, subscribe. My name's Calkin. This is Drew. We appreciate you being here.
If you have any comments, questions, concerns, whatever, comment, and then just engage with us, or sit back, relax, listen to some knowledge and whatnot. So Unapishtim tells Gilgamesh how to get this plant. All right, it's at the bottom of the sea. He has to tie rocks to his feet. Go down to the seabed, pick it up. So he actually gets his hands on the plant, right? And you kind of notice a shift in his attitude and his mentality from the start of the epic towards this point, right? You can see his thinking starts to change, right? Mm-hmm. He does not use the plant immediately. Instead, he wants to bring it back to Uruk and share it.
Wow, there's a humbleness that comes with that. Yeah. Because imagine seeking something for so long, going through something, finding it, and instead of trying to keep it all for yourself, actually giving and distributing. Yeah. That is uncalled for. That is insane.
And the beginning of the story, the beginning of the epic, right? That's complete 180, right?
Right. He wanted it for himself. Everything was selfish in the beginning.
Right. It was very
for sure
excessive, right? And that's where that 2/3 comes in, right? That 2/3 being God, right, made him excessive, right?
Or do you think it made him? No, wait.
So that fraction is
that's debatable. I feel like the mankind in him made him selfish. Mankind in him made him want to live forever. The mankind in him Was not the one that was
Well-
like, let me share with everybody.
Well, the mankind.
That was the God in him.
The mankind part, right? That human part is the part that limited him, right? Why he couldn't live forever, right? And so that 2/3, right? It's
That's
not
just like, I don't, why do you say that? The God in him, God's live forever.
right, but that human part of him was
Right.
why he couldn't live forever.
But the God part in him would, I mean, I feel like his human side, his smaller side, was much stronger. Those sinful thoughts, those thoughts of greed, were
Well-
much stronger. But at the end, the godly parts came out and he distributed.
Well, let me put it this way, right? So
Greed is not for gods. Greed is because of mankind. I don't think gods are greedy.
let me put it this way, right? So if you look at a lot of the stories of gods and goddesses, they are very much exaggerations of human behaviors. So they're-
Okay, I see what you're saying with
Right.
that. That makes a lot of sense.
right?
Yes.
So not all gods are the same in register.
And I shouldn't say that. The gods definitely have the capability of feeling and doing everything we do as humans. Period. Yes. But I don't think it's in their nature. If it wasn't their nature, then all the floods would be where, like, it wouldn't make sense. You know what I mean? Because we would be doing it, and there would be, you know.
Well, if you look at a lot of the stories, especially not just in ancient Near Eastern mythology, but in Greek mythology, the gods can be very petty. They can be very vindictive. They can be very selfish, very lustful.
It's just not going down.
And-
I'm trying to put it down, it's not even going down.
And so that fraction, right, of 2/3 is not equal fraction, right? So
2/3 is not equal fraction, of course not.
no, so it's that 2/3 of him being a god is what made him excessive.
What do you
made
mean
him
excessive?
grandiose, very gimme, me, mine.
I don't. That's debatable. I totally see
Well-
how you could say that.
Well, in this specific story, that's
In
how
the
that-
story,
how that fact,
yeah,
how
okay,
that
yeah,
faction
in the
functions.
story. I don't think in reality, if we're talking about a real God, I don't think that those would be traits of a God. You see what I'm saying there?
I can see what you're saying.
Well, okay, so back to the
within the context of those stories, and so so in this kind
This is
of literature, in that type of literature,
hold on. Keep going.
those dynamics function towards the plot of the story, which allows certain events to happen in order for a lesson to be extracted from it. So, in the beginning, Gilgamesh is 2/3 God, right? And that 2/3, as I've stated, is what made him excessive, right? It made him grandiose. It made him more, also to mention, right? So in the epic, right? Nobody else can match him, right? Versus when it comes to like stature, physicality,
Correct. Who?
right? So Gilgamesh
Sorry about that, guys.
was a rather very large man, a giant, if you will,
Right, because he was part God.
right? 2/3 God, right? But it was that human part that limited him, that could not realize that full godness.
Right, because I feel like that's where his insecurities would have came from. Right?
So I think the insecurities, so yes, to an extent, but also the insecurities is that human side, right? Of that 1/3, because at first in the beginning, he didn't want his name to be so after like midpoint, like quarter way through
Through
the
the
story.
story. Then he wanted his name
He
known.
wanted his name. He was worried about his name,
Right.
His reputation, his status.
Right. But I mean, the moral of the stuff is he wanted to live forever. So from kind of the beginning.
Well, not necessarily from the beginning, right? Because at first, right, he thought he was invincible already.
Right, because he was part God and stuff.
He kind of put that.
But he
human
must have
side-
been having doubts at some point in that story. To have
So-
wanted to seek more immortality.
So the reason why, so there's a lot I left out, right? Because we're gonna focus about the flood part,
Oh shoot! Sorry, we tend to
right?
do that.
But if we're gonna go there, So in that Gilgamesh's excessive nature, right? The citizens of Uruk, right? He was like a tyrant, right? Very like how we see a dictator or a king,
Okay.
right? They're very
Right.
build the whole palace to themselves, have many servants. He sees something, he wants it, he's gonna take it,
Okay. Right. He's like any ordinary king.
right?
Okay.
And so the citizens they cry out, they pray to the gods, particularly Anu, who's the sky god or the father god, right? And it's not because Gilgamesh is evil, right? It's just that he's just too much,
Too powerful.
It's
for
too
them.
extra, right?
Right. So they're praying.
Right. And so what happens is Anu comes up with this plan, and he enlists this other goddess, right? Whose name I can't remember the name at the moment, but he enlists this goddess, right? And similarly to other stories and myths, they create a man, right, out of clay. Right? She makes this man out of clay and spit.
That's funny. There's so much like
Yeah.
not only with the story of the Bibles, but like with certain stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of like when Jesus put spit and mud in this guy's hand, eye. Like that's so specific that you could correlate those.
Or
That's
also
pretty good.
in the story of it's an extra or deuterocanonical.
Okay.
Not Deuteronomy, deuterocanonical. Particularly in Catholic Bibles, there's a story called the Book of Tobit.
Tobit. Yeah.
Right, and there's this part of the story where Tobit's son Tobias goes on this journey to collect this money that his father worked for a while in Persia, right? And his father is blind, and throughout the whole time, right? Or not to get too much into the story, but Raphael is with them the whole time, right?
Who's Raphael?
The angel. The
Well,
angel
yeah,
Raphael,
yes.
right? But he doesn't reveal himself.
Yeah, right.
He's just like this helper, this guide, right, throughout the whole thing. But he doesn't reveal himself that he is Raphael.
Right. Okay.
And he tells them, "Hey, this is." It's actually use this combination of like spit and like fish liver and mud, and put it over his eyes and to be able to see.
Hold on. Cynthia. Oh my god. Hi, miss you too, girl. So nice to hear from you. I'm so sorry.
I'm not.
Hit me up. Oh my god. What's up? This is my podcast.
A live session.
Live session. It's not the podcast. Podcast coming soon.
With Calkin and Drew.
Calvin and Drew.
You know what's
Good buddy
funny,
Drew.
right? It's funny when you say Calkin and Drew. My name is Andrew, but I go with as Drew.
Andrew. Oh, dude, it's meant to be. We are the dynamic duo. You don't even know what we do off camera, guys. Like, we got notes, all that. But back to the story. But we're branching off too much.
Yeah, but I think that's fine. I think that's fine.
Yeah. But okay, so look, I've been looking at the Hindu, right? That's the output. We got into the Gilgamesh really, really good.
So I'm gonna pass it on to you. You can take this one.
Okay, so we're gonna do Noah's Ark. We all know about Noah's Ark.
Right.
Noah's Ark is,
If you don't know it, you know it.
I feel like everybody knows. I don't really have to get into it too much. There was a guy. God was displeased with humanity, just the same. Some person was called a vessel, preserved life and animals. Everything was cleansed, and then they rebuild. Same thing, no, right? But now we have the Hindu story of the flood, right? And this is something that I'm not familiar too much with. He's a little bit familiar with it, but we're gonna talk about it here live with you, right? I pay for ChatGPT, so we're just gonna give it to you right from there. Mod, please. I don't know what mod, please is, but if y'all can subscribe, I'd really appreciate it.
Mod, please.
I don't know what a mod is. You want to explain?
Do that.
Moderation? I don't know. Okay, so the Hindu flood story, right? Manu is called. The main Hindu flood accounts come from the story of Manu, often described as the first man or the ancestors of humanity. Key facts. A tiny fish came to Manu asking for protection. Manu kept moving the fish into a larger containers because it became growing rapidly. The fish revealed itself as Matsasaya, the fish incarnation of Vishnu. Mastaya warned Manu that a great flood would destroy the world. Manu was told to build a huge boat. He took seeds of every living plant, scarce knowledge, sacred, excuse me. That's my dyslexia showing there, guys. I apologize. And he took the 7 stages. When the flood came, Matsasaya pulled the boat through the waters by a rope tie to his horn. I think that's the gist of the story, right? Brief overview of it.
But there's this
symbolic
person, right? God comes to him, warns him of a flood.
Through a fish.
Through a fish, right? That's one of the avatars of Vishnu.
Right.
Which is also very, just not to go off topic just for a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's Hindu mythology, spirituality is very interesting, very ancient as well.
Yes, and I'm not knocking on it. I might make a comment or two about it, but not that I'm knocking it in any way, shape, or form. Just because I don't believe in, I believe they believe in karmic law.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. That's a total different story. But it's just the fact that, like, I'm just surprised that people don't see. Like, when I hear these stories, if I put this up to Jesus, it's just like.
Well, it's not Christianity.
It's not.
Kind of based off of karmic
Of course,
law
and I can't do that, and I can't do that all the time. I'm not trying to shit on it by that. I shouldn't say that because it's very disrespectful. I'm just saying.
Do unto others as thou would do unto yourself.
Right, I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand that in their lens too, because I want to know how does it give them? Does it give them the same oomph that Jesus gives me? I want to find that out. Right?
I'm sure it does.
Right, and I'm sure it does, and I cherish that too. It's just I like asking questions and whatnot.
Yeah. So Manu and I think it's called Matsya.
Matsya.
So there's this overlap, right? There's a god, the god Vishnu warns Manu of a flood, tells him, hey, pack up some seeds, some life, some animals, and there's that overlap right there. And so I'm seeing that streamline of preserving life, right? There's a warning, and there's the act of preservation. So after the destruction or cleansing of the earth of wickedness, you can rebuild, right? Start fresh, clean slate.
I am so sorry.
No, you're not.
I'm not. I had to get that out. I had to get this out. I apologize. I'm back, guys. I apologize. So yes.
Yes.
So yes, the whole story about it is the fact that there's a rebuild after a destruction. Yes. And so that leads us kind of the Gunyo. Let's see what they say about the Gunyo, right?
Gunyo it up.
Gunyo it up. We should have done this beforehand, but we like to bring it to you live. Why not?
Why not? Gunyo.
So let's see. Gunyo facts here. Give me facts about Gunyo, the flood.
Ah, I see. You're talking about the Chinese flood myth, often related to the legendary hero Yu the Great. In that story, ancient China was plagued by a massive, long-lasting flood. Instead of building an ark, Yu became famous for engineering a system of canals and dredging to control the waters. He worked for years, traveling the land, digging channels and organizing people. Eventually, he succeeded in taming the flood, which led to the founding of China's first dynasty, the Xia. Yu's story shows how some flood myths focus not on divine rescue, but on human ingenuity and perseverance.
First of all, I just want to say I love the accent.
I picked that specifically myself. I did. Yeah. Okay. So let's bring it to my. So that's the Chinese one. I don't want to get too much into that. That was the so, and it's very Gunyo is the flood version of Noah's Ark and Gilgamesh, right? And they're saying that instead of a god coming and saying, "Hey, this flood's about to happen, build an ark," this version of the story that comes from the Chinese Gunyo is saying that the man named Yo digged canals. It took him years to do because and to control the water movement. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's a little different. So there was no god interference in Gunyo like there was in Noah's Ark or Hinduism. There was no interference at all other than human human. So, but where did he get the warning? How did he know a flood was coming?
Maybe the flood was already happening. Cause I think it said that
It was a long. It was a month-long thing. What's good, brother? Zay Trades 305. What's up? How's it going, man? Thank you for coming. Hit that like button, man. We appreciate it. Is this Isaiah? I think it is. Oh yeah, it is Isaiah, man. Nice to see you, brother. Nice to see you. Thank you for hitting that, man. We appreciate you. We're talking about the floods, bro. We talked about Gilgamesh. We talked about Noah's Ark. We talked about the Hindu flood. That was called Manu. It was a fish that
an avatar of Vishnu.
Avatar of Vishnu. He remembers a lot better than I. I'm telling you, dynamic duo here. And the fish was speaking to this guy, told him, about the flood. He kept having to put the fish in a bigger container, etc., etc. And then we talked about the Chinese, the Gunyo. We just talked about that. And the Gunyo was totally different. And before I go on, so the Gilgamesh, the earliest date was 2300 BCE. Noah's Ark was 16 to 12 C BCE. Hindu Manu was 15th to 12th C BCE. The Chinese Gunyo described events from 2300 to 2200 BCE. Earliest written records 600 to 400 C BCE. And so that's those dates are crazy. They're all over the place. So back to the Gunyo though. The Gunyo, like I said, the guy, there was no intervention there. You know about the Aztec?
Not particularly.
Not particularly. I know that they like to say that they had like native, like ancient technology. That's about all, aliens and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're not gonna get to that.
No.
But since you brought it up,
Yeah, I want to get into Aztec, but I don't want to get into the whole. Why do they claim to have freaking yo, what's up, brother? You see what we're talking about, man? Do you like the floods? Did you know about the Hindu flood story called Manu? Did you know about the Chinese story called Gunyao? Let me know. Hit that comments. Go ahead. Sorry.
so when people like Zechariah Sitchin, Ancient Aliens, Billy Carson, Shadow Billy Carson. If you're seeing this, you're alright. You're doing your thing.
Yeah, Billy Carson got scraped by West Huff though.
I did see that.
I'm sorry.
I did see that.
And I really did like him a lot until that.
Right.
And it's not even that he got scraped. He held his ground, but don't ever back down, bro. That's what I didn't like.
Right. But so besides that, right? The thing is, right. So when you insert like scientific projections, right, onto ancient stories, it kind of takes away from like the beauty of the original story, right? Instead of saying aliens came down. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You're taking away from what could be real.
Right. And the greater message.
And you know what's crazy?
And the greater message within the story.
Right.
Instead of, hey, this is a machine, or this is some laser, or some.
I do want to say this, right? So I looked up the Aztec flood, right? And I love what it says here because it has nothing to do with fucking aliens. It has nothing to do with it. It seems more. So I'm gonna say, so when I looked at the Aztec flood, and they all say that it's a myth, quote unquote. Everything's a myth until it's disproven. Every conspiracy is only a conspiracy until it's truth. then what the hell is it, right?
Joseph Campbell said a myth does not. Hold on.
A myth wouldn't.
Hold on. Just
It's probably rephrasing it, but a myth doesn't make it
no.
not true. All right, I'm gonna keep going. So
Well,
the Aztec flood
I'll
myth.
pull up the quote.
The flood story came from the worldview of Aztec civilization and is tied to their belief that the world has been created and destroyed multiple times. Main story: a great flood destroyer and an earlier world age. Two humans survive. Cox, and I cannot pronounce that name. I am sorry. They escaped inside a hollow tree or a small boat. After the flood, they had children, but something strange happened. Their children could not understand one another's speech. This explained why many languages exist after the flood. Very similar to the idea behind the Tower of Babel. Deep Aztec belief that humanity had passed through several suns or world ages, one destroyed by jaguars, wind, fire, then flood. Wow, this is very different. The flood ended one entire age of existence. So this one's kind of similar to Manu, and there's another one, Unatepism. Unatepism, which one's that?
That's Gilgamesh.
That's Gilgamesh, yes. I thought so. Okay, yep. So it's very similar. Okay. Why did you? You know what's crazy? I really do wonder this. What? So it's so cool how they said that. And I'm asking ChatGPT, guys. You know what I mean? I love ChatGPT. It's really cool. Helped me with a lot. But it's saying that there was not only a flood, but also fire. Picture a disaster of fire. Picture a disaster by jaguar. Picture a disaster by wind. All those came. The flood was just the last one.
Right.
Which is crazy. So that's kind of like the plagues,
Yeah. Okay.
right?
I can see some overlap there.
Right, a little overlap, not really similar, but there were a string of events instead of just one event.
Right.
Is what I'm trying to say.
But here's the quote. I got the quote pulled up. Right?
Okay, here's the quote.
It's by Joseph Campbell. Right. If you're not familiar with Joseph Campbell, he's very known for comparative mythology. His works like the Hero with a Thousand Faces, where he goes over the overlap of like we're doing with the myths, right? But he does that, like there's this archetype of the hero, and it can be seen in stories and myths all over the world, right? But he says the myth does not point to a fact. The myth points beyond facts to something that informs the fact.
Oh, that's nice.
That's nice, right?
Yeah.
The myth does not point to a fact, but points to something beyond it that informs the fact.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. That's a good one.
So that kind of brings me to it doesn't necessarily we're not nitpicking historical accuracy or the likeliness of this actually happening, but rather what we can extract from it, right? What lessons, what kind of motifs and morals we can learn from these myths, and how we're just telling the same story over and over again.
Exactly. So that leads me to my next question. Why did I'm so sorry. Why did civilizations that never met across different continents, even through means of their own beliefs, so that to me points to one big God that worked through the beliefs of their own people, because he's that powerful. Why, you know what I mean? If I was God, I'd do that. Okay, this guy believes in Baal. I'm gonna send him a vision of me over Baal and send him the truth through that. But he's gonna use it through his will. Like, I don't know. And to warn people about the flood, like I feel like that was through. They were all warned in many ways, and then they're talking about all of a sudden they didn't understand, kind of like the Tower of Babel, right? It's pretty cool. I feel like the Bible gives us such a timeline that it's like I don't even know how to explain it because it's such a unique timeline that other ones don't give us.
Yeah.
That's what I want to say.
Okay. So since we're going this way, one thing that I can say, right? That actually, shout out again, Billy Carson.
Billy Carson.
Billy Carson. Where there's, and also in the tradition of Joseph Campbell, right? There's these same stories, same archetypes, same functions of these gods and heroes. Now, what if, right? It's the same. These are the same entities, right? Same spiritual forces, same whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that different cultures have different names for them.
What do you mean?
But it's the same story. They're the same.
Oh,
same
yes,
gods.
yes.
It's just different.
That's what I'm saying. Right.
All right.
Yes.
So you know, shout out again, Billy Carson, right? The god Thoth, right? He's the Egyptian god of magic and sciences.
Mm-hmm.
He also he's the scribe, right? Who records the soul's heart, the person's heart in the afterlife.
I did. I texted you on Facebook. Cynthia. Sorry.
You're not sorry. He's not sorry.
It's a cousin. Friend.
Okay. So he's the scribe. He records if the heart matches up with the feather of Ma. He records the results of it, right? This same archetype of Thoth, right, is seen in Mercury, right? The Roman god of like intellect, quick wit thinking, logic.
Mm-hmm.
Patron god of thieves and travelers. The same god is also known as Hermes, Thor, even some extensions to some extent Enoch. All right, there's that Viracocha, and
There's that what?
there's that same archetype. There's that same function.
Yes.
But it's just
There's the
like
same thing.
different
There's a warning. Mm-hmm. There's a warning. There's a disaster. Mm-hmm. There's a rebuild.
Yeah.
All of them.
Oh, right.
All of them. I already. That's the reason. That's the reason I wanted to do this one because I wanted to find all the similarities that these flood have in common.
Right.
And that's it.
And also, so that
So wait,
brings.
I'm gonna slip. So what was those three? I'm sorry. What was the three? What did I just say? I lose my train of thought.
There's a warning, the flood, preservation of life, more or less. If that's not what you said, it's close enough.
Yeah, warning.
Warning,
Disaster.
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 or renovation,
Rebuild.
rebuild.
That's it.
Warning, disaster, rebuild.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, those are all the things that the floods, no matter what flood story, all 200 of them basically have in common.
Yeah.
All 200. Even the guy that had no God intervention, that was Hindu, Manu
So
Matajasaya.
that's the Gunyo.
Oh, was it Gunya?
Yeah, it was the
It
Gunya.
was.
It's the Chinese.
See, this is why he's here, because I love you, man.
I'm just here.
So that was the Chinese, excuse me. Gunyo, that was, yes. And that was the 600, 400 CB.
BCE.
Earliest written records was 600, 400 CBCE.
Or for you, based on your conviction, just say BC.
BC. And that was with no God intervention. That was just a guy who somehow knew about the flood, seeing the weather's coming, and prepared
Right, but
camels.
even in that difference, there's still an overlap of perseverance, right? So even so Noah,
he-
right?
yeah.
Noah had to build the ark,
And he
right?
had to make the canals.
Right.
Yes.
And even all the other stories, right? Just surviving the flood
Right.
itself,
Right.
is-
Right.
and rebuilding that is
Yes.
perseverance in itself.
Yes.
Right. So that just shows the overall branching of human
So all of
perseverance, human ingenuity, human persistence.
right. So I want to picture this, right? Picture
This.
back then, right? When we used to get hit with stuff like you know, what was really bad disease? Chicken pox and stuff
Polio.
like that, polio, you know, all that stuff.
Spanish flu,
Right, all that, right?
influenza, the
Stuff
flu,
that really impacted our population.
the plague.
Right. Back then, weren't that lucky. Disasters even back then weren't that lucky. Was this a way for survivors to keep a record of those? Because I could imagine if a civilization went through something like that, seen a meteor hit, boom, and then it caused a massive flood or anything, they would want to be like, oh my God, we went from this many people to, God damn, that's it. You know that these are all records of how many times this happened to the Earth, and we know that the Earth has been hit many times by disasters, but these are different accounts of disasters
Even you know before
and rebuilds.
Right, rebuilds, right? So where are you going with that?
I don't know. I just I have no idea, but that was great, wasn't it? God, I love this podcast. This is a live session. This was such a great one. This was a really good one.
All right, so
I want to. Okay, so I wrote this with what they have in common. God was displeased. Righteous person came, constructed a vessel. I had to do some kind of action in order to survive. There was a perseverance of life and of animal kind. Okay, and so let's branch off to of life. I want to branch off to that though, right? Because that takes knowledge. That takes some thinking to know. Okay, and definitely well planning to be able to
coordination, logistics, engineering.
Right, it's insane on that, and I feel like you couldn't have survived. We couldn't have survived without that. It goes hand in hand. We couldn't have had a destruction of the everything without also saving some of the animals.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? And I think it's really cool how that adds that, because without it, it would be off balance, I would say.
Well, also, I feel like also an important question is, why did these floods happen in the first place? Like, so if every culture, every civilization has a story about a flood, so then there's had to be a flood or some sort of excess of water.
Well, absolutely, 100%.
Right.
And I think we're getting. Sorry, go ahead.
Right. So based on like the timeline of these stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
And especially the oldest of the stories, which is the Aboriginal indigenous people of Australia, right? Their earliest flood stories through oral traditions date back to over about 13,000 years ago, right? So what happened around that time? What happened around 10,000 years ago?
What?
The end of the Ice Age. Right, where the glacier maximum decreased, right? Sea levels rise all over the world. Influx of water, right?
Yeah.
And then these coastal cities, civilizations, regions, anywhere where there's water, would have experienced an increase of flow of water, right? And depending on the area, and depending on the melting rate of these glaciers, we could probably expect some destruction.
Absolutely, it makes sense. You do me a favor?
No.
Make a timeline of this. You know what I mean? A literal timeline.
Jeez.
I know I'm bad with that. I don't know why. He helps me with that kind of stuff. I'm telling you, it's a great duo.
I refuse. I'm not getting paid enough. I'm not getting paid at all for this.
Not yet. We're not. Yeah, we're getting paid in knowledge. There's nothing more valuable than knowledge, right, my brother?
How about application?
Consistency. That's why we do this every week. Every week. This is brought to you every week, guys. So check in, lock in, clock in. Every week we do this. Every Saturday. I guess Saturday is our day. Honestly, it's our day. Unless we pick another day, guys. If we do, you'll know first.
Do you want the names?
You know,
or just the timelines? Just the numbers.
The numbers, and then just put like a G there.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Well, I'm putting the oldest, so.
Yeah, oldest. That's exactly what I wanted you to do. Yeah. Thank you, bud. I love you, man. This is a good session, man. I gotta tell you guys again, man. When we had this talk, and I was so I didn't really want to think that the story of Gilgamesh was so much older, etc. I was anti it, and now I want to hear all the stories and stuff, and it's great. And I'm glad to be doing this for you guys. I hope you guys like this. I hope you're intrigued. And somebody came and joined that I haven't talked to in a while, which is great.
Yeah, and the thing about floods too, right? Before humanity was able to write things down, right? Before we invented writing systems, information and stories was passed down orally, right? Through the generation, right? And so to think, by the time these stories were actually written down, how much older were they actually were?
Yeah, exactly. I totally want to make this point too, because I totally just found this out. Did you know that the account of Jesus that is written was written down 70 years after his death?
Yeah, the earliest of that was 7 years after.
Yeah,
right.
which is not really too bad. That's a generation.
Yeah, I mean,
That's not that bad. That's a generation or two. And back then they lived way longer. So I don't know. That could be very well less than a generation. Who knows, right? But thank you to the two people who've been watching. We really appreciate you, man. This thing got on fire, right? I think it got on fire. I did. I enjoy this stuff so much. I do. More coffee. I don't think I need more coffee, bro. It's 12 o'clock. I gotta wind down. I gotta work tomorrow at 12. I know. One of these days, we're gonna pull an all-nighter, bro.
oh yeah.
We're gonna bring an all-nighter straight. We're gonna call it something, bro. What are we gonna call it?
We'll figure it out.
We're gonna call it something. It's gonna be like overnight, or talking knowledge madness after midnight.
Talking madness.
Talking madness after midnight. Facts. Done. Chop it, clip it, going in. If you guys haven't liked already, please hit that like button, guys. We really appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button, guys. Much love. I'm just waiting for him to write something down because I had a point that I want to make on this. It's kind of on the timeline that we have on everything. Yeah.
So what I was saying, right? How much older are these stories? Based on by the time we're finally able to write things down, how much older are these stories actually? And it actually brings me up to a massive flood event. Actually, we have evidence for this.
I was actually gonna branch off to that. We have evidence of that in the Sphinx has.
But this flood, right, happened before humans. Right. So any story.
Which flood? Which one?
I'm gonna get to that, right?
Oh, okay.
But what's interesting about the scale of it, right, and to think if whatever form of in the evolution of humans, right, which can be another topic. We'll talk about that later. But,
Evolution of humans definitely gonna be a topic.
right, if they were capable of some language, right, this happened around from like 6 to 9 million years ago, actually.
Oh wait, you're talking about? So you're trying to say that the
So I'm not saying right, but this flood, we have evidence of this flooded event, and
you're saying at that time though they weren't able to actually. The only way that they were able to talk about it was word of mouth. They weren't able to.
There weren't humans.
They were so. They were like a different kind of. They were a different form of humans. What are they called? Neanderthals and shit. Is that what you're saying?
Before that, like Homo erectus, Homo habilis, I don't think those stories wouldn't be preserved. Right?
Oh, oh my God! You made such a fucking holy fucking shit.
And
You made such a great point for me.
I haven't got to what I was gonna say
That's
yet, but
fire. That's fire, dude. The lost history of those type of humans, bro.
yeah, like the earliest.
Who's to say they didn't have language? We don't fucking know.
We don't
They
know.
probably have who's to say they didn't have government? This, that.
They probably did have some form of hierarchy, some social structure,
Which is government in my eyes, fire.
Sure, we'll go. Yeah.
Wow, that's such a good point you made, bro. That's totally the evolution of humans and um and their lost history. Yeah, because we'll never, ever, unless we're able to make a time machine, be able to see.
Right. Imagine
No.
imagine running from a saber-toothed lion.
Exactly. Exactly. Or defeating a mammoth.
Right. Like,
Yeah, like so speaking about this, like
So-
the people who go ahead.
all right, so this flood.
'Cause I
right?
cut you off all the
Right,
time,
So
so.
this flood, right? This is called, I think it's called the Zenian flood.
And this is from like a
Wait,
religion
wait,
or
no.
just some story.
This is like science.
From which area of the world? Like
So-
did it come from?
So yeah, it occurred. This is, we have evidence for this through, archaeology,
Right.
scientists
Yes.
out in the field.
Right. You'll see the erosions.
This was the flooding, right, of the Mediterranean basin. So around 6 to 9 million years ago, the Mediterranean was land, right? So right where the Strait of Gibraltar is, right where Morocco and Spain is, that was covered up.
Oh.
So there was no water
Right.
between Europe and Africa. You could walk to them.
Right. Wow.
Right. So at this point, right, that strait of land broke. Right? And so imagine the Atlantic pouring in.
Yeah. Wiping out. And it's only that it's isolated to that spot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. So imagine how much water,
Right.
what kind of life was stuck in that basin.
That's another great topic too. Like, how much stuff do you think is under the water, man? I feel like we're having more and more exploration. I feel like we have to stop looking into space and start looking into underwater. Because if we find, it's the same. It's ironic that it's the same atmosphere. 100. Like if you go deep enough, it's the same pressure, it's the same atmosphere, kinda. If you go into space, you know what I mean? Right? Or is there pressure in space or negative pressure?
That
I don't know.
depends.
No idea. It's a good question for a scientist or something, man. Somebody let me know. Y'all scientists out here? Am I talking on my ass? I'd love to know.
So here's your timeline, right? But
Okay.
the thing is, right? So
Mhm.
oh yeah, take your time. It's not like we're on live or anything.
Oh my god. I just noticed. Nah, I see what you did there. Talking to myself.
All right, so this is where the date's described, right? But this is when it was actually written, recorded, right? So this is timeline. All right, so that this Zenian flood, right? The whole entire Mediterranean basin is filled with water at God knows how fast it was going, how many gallons per second, how many
Right.
the force of it, having all that pressure and that strait finally breaking in.
Yeah.
The Mediterranean Sea is it's not a lake, it's not a pond, it's not a pool, it's huge, it's a sea, right?
So, do you remember how we were testing? This is totally off subject, but when we were making tests on with nuclear weapons and stuff, like the stuff that like we used to do it with water, and the amount of water you used to push and stuff, it's just crazy. I don't know. I can imagine that by seeing one of those.
Okay. Definitely right about being off topic, but let's see here. No more coffee. Well, that's for him, not for me. I can have more coffee.
Yeah,
There is
kill
some
it,
coffee, though.
bro.
There's no, it's empty, bro.
Oh, you want more?
Yeah, I got all this honey in my cup.
Yeah, clean that out. We only got one person in here right now. Shout out to the one person here.
Of course. So, floods, myths, coffee. Go there. Can't go there, go there. Let's check. Let's move up. Right there. Cool.
Okay, back to what I was saying.
What were you saying?
So we talked about mad shit. We talked about
Man,
stuff. This is over 18, so we're good. We got 5 likes. How many views you think you got? We got like all over.
6, 7.
Shut up. 6, 7, man. This guy's 60 years old though.
Yeah, my bones feel like it.
Get up out of here.
So, we had this timeline right
Yes, he's gonna take it over for a second. I'm sorry. Give me a second.
He's not sorry. So we had this timeline of flood stories and myths across the world. This is not an exhaustive list. There's over, as we said, there's over 200 written, recorded stories. But the oldest flood stories actually come from the Aboriginals, right? The indigenous people of Australia. And these stories can date between 5,300 and 11,100 BC. And we move on to the earliest Sumerian records of the Epic of Gilgamesh, or the Epic of Atrahasis, and the later, which was the later Babylonian standardized version, was around 1,000 BC, but the earliest Sumerian records are about 2,300 BCE, right, which is or even somewhere between 2,500, 2,800 BCE, which is about 4,500 years ago. Long time ago. Then we move to the events described in the Chinese myth of Gunyu. The events described are said to be taking place between 2,300 to 2,200 BCE. So hold that thought right there. But so we'll move on to the Aztecs and the Incas. Their stories are around 1600 BC, and then we have Noah's Ark from the Book of Genesis. The earliest accounts of these occur from 1600 BC, right? And it was more standardized. Or alternate versions, perhaps the Canaanite or ancient Hebrew version of this flood story was in 1200 BCE, right? And then we move to the Hindu Manu Matsya. That flood story is dated around between 1500 and 1200 BC. And then, so back to that hold that thought, that asterisk with the Gunyu in Chinese, right? That's earliest written record of that was between 600 and 400 BC. All right, so we have a timeline between 11,100 BCE at a maximum to the extent that we are able to know, to 400 BCE. All right, so we have 11,000 years of blood stories, which is, that's nuts. That's crazy. Any thoughts, big man? He's got thoughts, but not on this, apparently. I'll wait.
Hey, you're gonna have to.
They're gonna wait too. He's not sorry, guys. I wouldn't blame you if you just stopped watching now, but I wouldn't blame you if I scrolled up.
I'm about to end the chat. Like, it might even end it. I think I'm about to call short. Like,
Can we at least wrap it up?
yeah, let's wrap it up because I got a discussion.
You couldn't wait for that. You had to do that midstream, man. So, folks,
Hold
right?
on.
Oh, I was gonna do it, but
Go ahead.
this guy. All right, so folks, right? So, thank you for watching. Thank you for coming. For
I'm
tuning
so
in.
sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. Hey, listen, this is the raw, uncut version of me. You feel me? I love you guys. You know, God is good. I got the recap. Thank you very much, my brother. We talked about everything.
He's not sorry.
I'm not sorry, though.
Not at all.
You know, he's my brother. This is what we do. Come on. Come on now. Come on now. Come on. Alright, so we talked about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stories about the flood. Even though that there's about 200 stories about floods, we talked about 7, right? Gilgamesh, Noah's Ark, Hindu Manu, Matasaya, right? The Chinese Gunyo, right? The Aboriginal traditions, the Native Australians, the Aztecs, Native Indians. Excuse me, Native Indigenous. Excuse my language. They all have in common these things here. The gods became displeased with humanity, wicked. Righteous person was called out. Blah, 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 blah. I don't really want to read this. Screw all that. You can take it away, buddy. Too much coffee. Too much coffee.
All right, so
I just feel like I'm rereading everything, should I?
based off of everything that we've gone over
Right?
so
Why
far,
am I rereading? This is good, though. This is good. I'm going to keep this. It's going like that.
based off of everything so far that we discussed, explored, through all interruptions and pauses and
Yeah, keep going.
shenanigans,
Yeah,
hijinks.
shenanigans. I'm not really focused right now, so I gotta just
Really?
I gotta wrap it up.
I'm trying to wrap it up, but you
So guys, listen, we had a great stream. We love it. We're gonna kick off the next stream. What are we gonna talk about? We got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other topics that I kind of wrote down that I want to pick. We talked about psychedelics, sleep, and death. That might be our next one, right? Either that or the evolution of humans and their lost history. That's going to be our next stream, I think, because we touched base on the flood pretty good. Guys, if you guys enjoyed that, share it.
I wouldn't blame you if you didn't.
Yeah, me neither, because it's a long video. But either way, thank you guys so much for being here. Take care, and I'm so glad to hear from you guys. Mwah, mwah. Take care, and God bless.
Doses.
Deuces.
More controlled next time.
Oh yeah, for sure.